So some of you probably saw the article that came out about shooting the Olympics. Um, and so Darren, we read it and just talking about how it kind of, would you say, reaffirmed what we're doing here and just the requirements, and things are a little different, obviously, speed-wise for the Olympics. You know, we complain about having to edit and post at halftime or post-game with a 15-minute deadline. Their deadline's ridiculous. We're talking, what, 3 minutes for some other stuff?
From the time that sometimes from the time it's shot to the time it's on the news wires, it's 3 minutes.
One thing that I like to do during Super Bowl, yeah, this shows you how much fun I have, during the Super Bowl and large bowl games or large sporting events, is watching like ESPN and some of the major sports networks to see from when a significant play happens or event happens to how fast it comes up on their website. And it's interesting, sometimes they'll have something posted in 5 minutes, sometimes it'll be 30 minutes later. But this kind of goes to show that. Those of you in journalism know that speed is a big part of it. You want to have the first image out, you want to have the first story out. So anyway, so just wanted to talk about shooting the Olympics and kind of how it can apply to us. Darren, I'm going to kind of take the lead on it.
Yeah. So I shared it on Facebook, and I know some that got it, but it was kind of brought back memories, either football or but it was interesting to see how the difference between AP and Getty and how they work and some of the background information on leading up to the Olympics. I know that for Getty, they are the official photographers for the International Olympic Committee. So everything that's done for the Olympics is done by Getty. And then AP, obviously for all the news wires. Getty spent 4 years, so from the time that Vancouver was ending to right now, they spent 4 years planning. And so they walked the sites, they determined where's their best backgrounds, where could they get their cameras set up, both mounts and placements of photographers. They also run miles and miles and miles of Ethernet so that they can get wired connections for being able to connect into the network to be able to get images up. So if you hadn't read the article, it was actually pretty cool to understand how things flow for them. Just like in the first photo of Shaun White, when he had his failed run on the half pipe, they both got it. I think they both had him up within minutes of it occurring, but you can see that all the photographers, in essence, get the same shot, but it's a matter of how fast they can get it up on their site. A lot of times Getty deals mostly with more of the creative, more aesthetically pleasing types of photos, where AP photographers try to tell the story. So they'll oftentimes see fans in the backgrounds, but you can see in this one that the Getty photo is just of Shaun White close up. But that's kind of their intent. That's their intent.
Just real quick, our Getty agreement's done. We finalized that, so that's all in place now, so that's a good thing.
So in the article, it talks about how in less than 3 minutes after Shaun White hit the half pipe, the photo was on the servers all over the world and ready for download by art directors and editors. So then next slide. This one was pointing out backgrounds. So they position their photographers so that they're going to have the correct backgrounds, so that you don't have trash cans and porta johns in the background.
That's important?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
So anyway, at least in this article, that's probably one of the bigger things for me when I shoot now. It's like I'm trying to see if, what is going to be in the background when I shoot. So in this case, they were able to capture between lights and get good contrast between colorful suits and dark background, at least.
And remember, sometimes we can't control that, but sometimes you guys really can control what the foreground and what the background is. We're going to do a little image review of some of our images, and it's amazing when we throw in a good foreground or we throw in a good background, how much stronger the image is. And we've got some that it's almost the exact same image, that somebody was standing a little to one side versus the other, and the background changes, the foreground changes. Unbelievable, the difference. And these are your guys' shots.
So, with that, I think they were also talking about in the article at this point too, about how there's about 2,000 Sochi photos per day that hits the wire. And Getty and Reuters said that each agency's photographers will shoot a combined 1 million frames over the course of games. So 1 million photos of everybody shooting. So then they went and talked about the comparison of the way it used to be in the Olympics, where they would shoot
Film.
and if you do some math, that would come to, if there's 36 exposures in a roll of film, I think it came to 28,000 rolls of film. And they were only able to get approximately 100 to 150 photos per day when they're shooting film. Now it's, yeah.
What hardware do you have to have in place to have an image up to its server in 3 minutes?
It's the key is actually getting them from the camera to the laptop.
Okay, so then once they have runners or people
You can
that
do
are-
runners, you can shoot Wi-Fi, you can shoot tethered. There's definitely options. Did you work the NCAs? Were you working here when we hosted men's NCAs?
I was here when I didn't work.
So the larger, Gettys, AP, SI, all those shooters, there's some other large, anytime there would be a significant play, they'd take the card out and give it to the runner, and the runner would go post it. So they'd sit there and shoot. Something significant happened, that card would come out and would go.
So they're not doing their own processing, right? They're having somebody else do process.
So there's photographers, and then there's post-production people, and it'll talk a little bit about the workflow later in the article too, but in some cases, the cameras that are mounted and that are shot, they are tethered, and then those shots, within I think 1.5 seconds, are making it to their laptops to be able to do post-production and have it out within 30 seconds.
Just takes money and people.
And a lot of both.
Next.
Next, bummer.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a mount, but it captures the scene, it tells the story, it's, iconic. And so at this point in the article, they're talking about planning, like I said, 4 years for Getty, 2 years for AP, that they plan for all of this. So whether it's mounts or placement of photographers, they've been ready for it because it's 2.5 weeks worth of shooting, 18 hours a day, if not more.
So they don't just grab their gear and go.
It talks a little bit about how each photographer carries 4 bodies, and it's either a D4 or if you're shooting Canon, it's the 1D?
D1X?
D1X. They carry wides 16 to 35 2.8s, 24 to 70, 70 to 200, and then a 300 all 2.8s. So then for the workflow, when they shoot, they've got, whether it's mounts or whether it's handheld or runners or however they get the photos in, there's 3 different, well, there's many people, but the way they do their workflow is one person chooses the best image for composition and then crops it. The second person then edits, so a different person edits for color, and then the third person adds the metadata and gets it out. So I started trying to apply kind of what I do in my workflow when I shoot. It's like, okay, so my first thing is I go through and I get rid of all my non-keepers, keep the ones, if they're marginal, I keep them, get a closer look. If I don't want it, I can get it out of Camera Raw. And then I'll crop, compose, and then I'll come in and do my color corrections before I go on and add keywords and stuff. So anyway, it just kind of confirmed kind of the process that we were taught.
And they're doing captions again, right?
Yep.
Just saying keywords.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, they're doing caption for the metadata. That's
Captions,
what
yeah.
they're.
Captions like Getty does caption.
What's an example of a caption?
Like in a newspaper where you write it out.
At the men's half pipe, and then there's like a blank, Sean White, or whoever it is, whatever, at the so sheet,
Okay, so it's like a descriptive phrase as opposed to a keyword.
Who, what,
Right.
when, where, and why.
Oh,
All in one
okay.
Yeah,
sentence.
and then they have that kind of preloaded, and then they just add names.
Okay,
Keywording's easier.
much.
And they just reiterated at this point that they've got, takes about 90 seconds for that workflow for those 3 people. The whole editing process is done in 30 to 40 seconds. Once the last editor is done, the image is blasted to the world. It takes about 90 seconds for the images to travel over redundant servers dedicated to Getty's data throughout the United States.
Pretty simple.
So photos delivered to clients at an average clip of about 3 minutes or less.
So I don't want to hear more whining about 10 minutes. That's overkill.
While we're here, and you can,
The other thing about this clip too is that they say that take any 2 photos from AP and Getty in the middle of the competition and they all look similar. Everybody is a pro, so when Sean White botches his landing, everybody gets the photo. It's a technical shot, but there's nothing special about it.
Which is what we talk about all the time, right? That game action really technical. Everybody gets it.
Everybody gets the shot.
Yep. It's the other stuff that is going to separate you. Right, Jacob?
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The article says that the second a photographer fires the shutter on a camera, the resulting image a high quality JPEG, not an uncompressed RAW file. So they shoot it in JPEG.
And raw. Right? Or are they just shooting JPEG?
It says the resulting image a high quality JPEG. So they shoot it. Ours is .NF.
Mm-hmm.
no,
Is that a JPEG? It's not a JPEG. I'm just trying to understand.
I think they shoot both in JPEG
Right.
and RAW, but they
Transmit JPEG.
transport, yeah, they.
Transmit JPEG.
That's how they get it out. That's how they get it out quickly.
So you can have the camera shoot in RAW and JPEG, and then it transmits the JPEG. Have you been here when we use a little transmitter that sends it to the iPad? So that's what we do. You put the camera in RAW and JPEG, and the camera actually transmits the JPEG to your iPad. But instead of transmitting it to an iPad, we could have it transmit to a laptop,
Oh, wow.
and it's the JPEG. It's just because of file size.
So going back to it, they talk about how AP and Getty have different clientele. One tells a story of the events, and Getty is creating the spectacle for the International Olympic Committee for them to promote the games. So it's much more of a
Marketing.
marketing and creative sort of process for the Getty photographers.
So if I'm shooting tethered, I should be shooting raw and JPEG.
If you're tethered, hardwired, it should be able to transmit RAW fine.
Okay.
If you're doing a lot of burst, then you probably just want to do the JPEGs. So, like if you're shooting men's basketball on strobe, you could easily transmit the RAWs, hardwired. If you're shooting ambient, you probably want to do JPEG. Just frame rate.
All right.
Next, or
I think this was more of this is the Getty style.
it's a great shot with panning, the blur, but the athlete is tack sharp. So that's a great panning technique. It's a great shot. Center crop though, right, Jacob? What the heck is that?
Looks familiar. So, they were just focusing again on the Getty portion of the article being creative with your photography. So doing this series, is something that the client is looking for to promote the games, to market the
Did it,
sale of the tickets and the attending.
did it mention the turnaround on this? Because I'm guessing it's not that, unless he's really good, I don't think he can do this in 3 minutes.
No.
or less.
Probably not 3 minutes. be on the Wacom tablet, you can probably get it done in about 15.
And some Starbucks.
Yeah, and an extra latte. And at that point, it says here, there are thousands of moments like Shawnett's collision in every Olympics. Each lasts a fraction of a second. So there's absolute no time for photographers to take their eyes off the action at hand. So, just when you go down to look at
Chimp?
your LCD, you're gonna miss something like a diving catch in the outfield.
That would never happen.
Or someone stealing bait.
Don't be a chimp.
Don't be a chimp.
Don't be a chimp.
We should put that sign up in the office. Don't be a chimp.
They also talk about, they rely on their teams to get the moments of peak action on clean backgrounds, but that's just the bare minimum. It says, I'm pushing my photographers to innovate, and they never let me down, so.
You guys can do this, right?
Yeah.
And this is what? This is a tilt shift
In the article, it says it's actually a filter.
filter. It's a tilt shift filter.
Yeah. So the image
To
is
emulate
filtered
a-
for cool.
A tilt shift lens.
But we don't have to do that because that's lens.
So those of you that saw Elizabeth's shot for men's basketball with the tilt shift, it was a great shot.
Question, when I'm shooting and I know I need images for a quick edit, I'm chimping a little bit, I'm making notes.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I watch you and you don't seem to be doing that. How do you select images for a quick edit?
So, two ways. I'll talk into the mic, and I'll just, as soon as the image is done, I'll push the microphone button and say, grand slam home run, bottom of the second. And what that does, I don't even listen to that again. It doesn't even matter what I say in there, because it creates a WAV file, an audio file, right behind it. So then when I bring it up in Bridge, any photo as I come up and I see an audio file, the file before it is what I wanted. So you don't even have to talk into the microphone. If you just push your microphone button and hold it down for 2 seconds, that's all you have to do. And that marks that photo. Does that make sense?
It
So you don't
does.
have to take your eyes off the action. On the Nikon, it's the bottom right button. So you can keep watching, you can push that button and you can say something if you want, otherwise just hold it down for 2 seconds and that's it. So that's how I'll mark my images. You need to do that as right after it happened, otherwise you are going to have to look at your LCD to go back to find it. But like if there was a grand slam shot or a home run, once you get done shooting that little series, just push that button, hold it down for 2 seconds and let go, that marks it. Then when I go into Bridge and I'm scrolling through, it gives me a big file that doesn't have an image, it shows a little music note, that the series before that's what I want. So that's really the main way I mark mine. Basketball, baseball, so what's that?
Bridge, it just shows like the file before or whatever, you just
So it'll show, and I erase them when I'm done, so instead of showing a photo, it's going to show like a little music note, and it has the same file number as the image before it.
okay.
So if I marked 175 and I hit the microphone right after that, 175 is going to also be an audio file. There's going to be a second
The music note comes up after?
after it. But that's a really easy way to do it.
The 7D doesn't have it.
No, but what I've been doing in lieu of, for landscapes, I haven't been doing it for sports, I put my hand in front of the lens.
And put a marker in, right.
Yeah, put a marker in. Even if the hand's out of focus, it doesn't matter, it's just a marker for me. I do that like when I shoot for series or for panoramas, and they're within the content on the same card as the other action images, that I'll mark them with just put my hand in front of the lens.
It works really well for me.
Alright. I think that was pretty much as far as the content goes, but they had some other images that were showing, the creative side. That, like I said, Getty is focused on more so than AP.
The cool thing, everything that they talked about and everything that they showed is everything that you guys are doing or you guys are learning to do. There isn't anything that they're doing any different than we're doing. Obviously, at this event, it's at a larger scale, but it's nothing that you guys couldn't be plugged into and be a part of and understand. You know, shooting tethered is stuff that we actually do on our marketing shoots. All the series photos, the tilt shift, and stuff like that is definitely something that you guys learn here. Probably one of the biggest things I took away from it, again, was really watching your backgrounds, controlling your backgrounds, controlling your foregrounds. Everybody's going to get the shot of the home run or the touchdown catch. It's who has the cleanest photo as far as background or content. So, and sometimes you can't control it, but sometimes you can.
Is Tether when it first the iPad?
Or a laptop, yeah.
Because like they'll ask to see the photo and it's like nice to have on the iPad.
Right. Yep. All right. You kill the lights, please. Thank you. So we'll go through these pretty quick. And kind of do our usual. Just we're looking for peak action or something that tells a story, emotion, fan shot, but also kind of think about foreground, background. The nice thing about this, how's the background? Fairly clean, other than the colorful umbrella up top. You're probably not going to go ask that nice lady to next time bring a dark blue umbrella that matches the background. But start trying to notice what's in the background. Start really trying to pay attention to what's in the background of your images. This is kind of weird just because of the blue background. We're in gray. You know, the only two things that have color in the image really are the ball and the umbrella. What about in post? Not for quick edits, but what about in post going through and desaturating the umbrella? So that goes back to that Getty's type thing, right? That's a no-no on the AP side, but that's kind of a Getty's, not a problem. Same thing. Our quick edits, kind of think of that as AP. We're telling the story, everything's legit. When we do our full edits, we can go through and desaturate that. We can kind of change things a little bit. Not move the ball or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but doing our series photos, going in and maybe desatting that. This was on Pinterest today. What? Okay, thanks. It came in an email. But I thought this was kind of cool, combining what we learned in class last week. We talked about how to make these series, but we also used adjustment layers. So we could easily do this, and on that last adjustment layer, do a desaturation and just paint the athlete back in, right? I don't know about having that middle, there's 4 athletes, right, or 4 different photos. The second one right behind him, I don't really, it's kind of hidden. It's almost, I don't know. But think about stuff like this when you guys are doing your edits. You know, if you do a series, your swimming or your diving series, Colin, if the background is too distracting, what about making the background black and white and just bringing the athlete in color and maybe the water or something? So if you have a background that's really distracting, think about doing something like this. What about the background? Distracting? Clean? Center crop though, right, Jacob? But I think it works, right? How's the background? Pretty clean. What do you guys think? What's that? Elizabeth?
2 to 4 with Albert.
Does the umpire look like he's looking at the ball, or looks like he's, I don't know.
Elizabeth.
What can I say?
Good shot.
Peak action.
Peak action. What irritates the heck out of me, really, you couldn't crop that out just a little bit, take the hand out.
And that thing in the upper left corner.
Yeah. Peak action though.
Great,
Great timing, good shot. Little Rembrandt lighting. That's nice. Background?
very good. Coaches, fans,
Clean? How about the grass? Like we talked about earlier. What's that?
It's hard to tell on that projector.
If every other photo looked like that, yeah.
Okay. How about that grass? Seeing some difference?
Looks like there's no block point.
We got a good black, whoa,
Oh,
good
yeah,
black point
fans,
here.
Yeah,
Just a little under.
washed out.
That's with a Canon. Who took it? Oh, Canon. You can tell because the reds are gone. It's not your fault, Frank. Well, it is. You bought Canon. How about the background? Those of you that have shot soccer.
At least there's not a van.
I was going to say, that's probably about as clean as we can get, right? There's no RV sitting right here.
RV, quarter down.
Photo bombs.
The hell?
All in.
Sticks out in blue
Nice swishy pants.
swishy pants.
Why is she standing there in the rooms?
What's that? Not sure. Looks like he may have gotten hit. Is the ball in his glove?
No, the ball is
It's about a foot in front of his number.
from his number.
Oh, there it is.
Oh.
Is this film?
Is this film?
It looks like a scan. Dang it.
Good timing. Just the ball blends into the background.
Do you think it hit him and bounced off, or you knew it was
It hit him square in the back.
So is this on the bounce back or is it?
No, that's incoming.
So.
He saw the trajectory.
You know what?
He saw the angle of the ball coming
Yeah.
right at him.
Just thinking of that, like, oh crap.
Yeah. Wow.
Clean background? This is the one you had to step in to do because the other photographer refused to, right?
Yes. Yeah, and when after you told me how dangerous that was, I had second thoughts. Well, too late now, I already did it. Ooh.
Fortunately, that was just a glancing blow. Didn't get him straight.
Most of these, well, not most, some of these are from when I asked you guys to turn in your images, turn in 4 or 5 impactful images. That's what a lot of these are. All right, so what about having them in the foreground? Because we talked about controlling foreground and background, right? What you can add and what you take away. So obviously the photographer chose to add that in the foreground.
I like it. That's context.
Stephanie, what do you think?
I like it.
That's disturbing. Moving on. Different angle. Kind of cool.
Hard shadows.
Hard shadow, small light source. Especially because it's Alabama, missing the ball.
Nice.
So that's a panning technique or?
That looks like a Photoshop.
Curved leg.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what lens this is. There's a little distortion going on here. But it's also obviously panning because of the background.
I was gonna say, that's not just all Photoshop right there.
No.
It's gotta be panning.
Nice.
All right. So what do you guys think about background? I think everybody in here shot softball now. You know what your options are. Could we have taken an angle to get Arizona in? Or no?
Use a Y.
What about, I mean, we're not missing much, right? We're just missing the A and part of the R.
Was it wider and then cropped down to that?
I assume.
So maybe Arizona did make it into the frame.
Guess you better.
How about that for background?
Oh, nice.
Okay, the grass, we'll skip, but the background, pretty nice.
Yep.
Versus that.
Good job. Who shot that? Outstanding work, whoever did it.
Anybody take credit?
I shot that.
What's that?
I shot that.
You,
Great job.
Mike.
mine, mine, it's mine, mine, mine.
So I mean, like, she's obviously not gonna like move from her position, so.
No, this isn't a bad photo. We're just,
Right.
obviously that's a much better background than that. And, you know, if this is in game, you're going to get what you get. But if you know that she's going to warm up next inning and she's going to stand in about the same spot, if you go over to the side, can you get her with that type of background? Good background? Is she going to catch that?
Hope so.
She didn't catch
Gotta
it.
get her
She
down.
didn't?
No, I have the series and it.
Looks like I hit her right in the face.
Hit her right off
Yeah.
the mask.
No, actually, I think it went off of her left shoulder.
Is it a foul ball?
I don't remember.
Maybe. That would make sense. All right. Two almost identical. Background, foreground. First off, great job shooting through the net, like we talked about earlier, right? You don't have a cheese grater. What do you guys think about the foreground?
My feeling is if you're gonna include something in the foreground that's out of focus, include more of it so that you can
What needs to frame the subject?
kind of,
What's that?
It needs to frame the subject, it isn't the foreground. Just kind of keeping out there.
When I was shooting it, it was really hard because the angle I was at was,
yeah.
I couldn't, I tried, I got up a couple times and tried different angles and stuff.
So I mean, they're both good photos, but the single one obviously includes the Arizona.
Yeah.
So,
I like this one a lot better, just because you have the catcher in it. Definitely a good shot. I like the background better, but I like the foreground in this one. What's that?
So just move the background.
Yeah. So I think they're both good shots, but I thought that was a pretty good example of, you know, you guys are in control of choosing whether you're going to add the foreground or not on these. We saw that one of the Major League Baseball one where they had a lot of the batter, umpire, catcher in there. I almost felt like that was too much.
I did too.
This one, I think, shows the pitcher really well. In game, you know, because of the center fielder, right? She's definitely ready. And I think for me, it's enough of the catcher.
All about the purpose of softball, makes it so
Yep.
easy to make it look good.
That looks staged by the Pac-12.
Very nice.
Really? Can you get the logo right there?
Now that we know that they like it.
But yeah, exactly. But I think that's a great shot for the Pac-12 logo. How about that?
I thought I see her face, small issue of yours, but.
Background?
Disturbing.
Disturbing. But again, everybody shot softball. How are you going to get a shot of the third baseman with a clean background?
Probably
Shoot
not.
from behind
Either
home
get
plate.
lower or get higher.
Shoot from behind home plate. Because you're up in the well, she's going to be lower than you are no matter what, right? Especially when she squats over. I thought this was a good shot, and I thought it was one of those, there's nothing you can do about the background. The background irritates me. But knowing our venue and our facility, I don't know what you can do differently for it. Trash can and a happy student manager trainer. Trash can. I like the use of the foreground here. Nice depth, but what do you guys think of the foreground? What's that? So do we like that better?
Still got the trash.
Still got trash. So no to these?
Oh, I think you turned them in.
Yeah, that's what we have.
What do you think, Stephanie?
I like the first one.
What's that?
Would that be a candidate to desat the background completely?
Sure. What do you think, Jacob? Be quiet.
Realistically, I probably wouldn't have turned in either. Just because, I mean, there, I guess that one works better for me than the second one. Just because losing part of her leg is kind of.
I like the same one, she's looking more towards you.
I'd say take it for safety, and then when she runs from third to home, get a better shot of her running again.
So this is number 2, who's a pinch runner, who doesn't play in the game. She's only a pinch runner. So this is your only shot?
Could you use a Gaussian blur in the background?
Sure.
Crop her tighter, so it's much less obvious that it's a trash can back there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the point is that you're looking at it and you have a purpose when you do your edits. She gets stepped on? Is this yours, Lana? She gets stepped on or no?
Yeah.
Great advertisement for the Wildcat Grill.
See, I didn't know.
Mexican food
Because,
order.
I mean, obviously I caught that on probably, but.
It's so cute that we call that logo.
Nice.
thought this was a great shot because so many people stop shooting after this happens. So I thought this was a great shot, getting the emotion in the dugout.
I'm sorry. I just love that. That is one of my all-time favorites, simply because of the Sun Devil. And he's having his head in shame. Any other opponent, it wouldn't have the dramatic, for me, it wouldn't be as meaningful.
All right. We good? Do about 15 more minutes?